All right, welcome everyone to our biology career panel this evening. If you all wouldn't mind, let's give a warm welcome to our guests really quick. So the way this panel will work is we'll start with some quick introductions of who is on the panel here. And then I will dive into some pre-prepared questions that I have. But then I'll leave plenty of time at the end if you all have specific questions. And I also have questions that were submitted in the RSVP form as well that I'll try to ask as well. So with that, our first question is just introductions. So if you all wouldn't mind sharing your name, where you completed your undergraduate and or doctorate degrees or master's degrees, if you have graduate degrees, what your major was, and then what field you currently work in and what your position is. And if you've had previous positions that are relevant to biology and would like to share those too, that would be awesome. So here you go.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Savannah Harvey. I completed my undergraduate here at KU, and I got it in microbiology with a BS in microbiology, and I graduated in 2019. After that, I got employed at Merck Animal Health, which is who I'm representing here today. And while I was doing my associate scientist, so the entry-level position role with Merck Animal Health, they allowed me to do continuing education. So I also have my master's now in public health, which I just completed in 2023. And I have a certificate in epidemiology associated with that as well. I do currently work in animal health, as indicated by Merck Animal Health, and I am a scientist, which is now the R2 position. So I did get a promotion after completing that master's degree.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shelli Nauman. I am the microbiology laboratory coordinator here at KU up on the 6th floor. I've completed my undergraduate degree at K-State. Don't hold me accountable for that. And I got a BS in microbiology. I have worked several different positions. I've worked at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment as a water microbiologist. I also have worked in the food industry for Smucker, yes, the jam and jelly company. Also for Research Fine Foods as their quality manager, and then also here at KU. I also, during the pandemic, worked as an infection preventionist at Stormont Vale Hospital. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Sam Campbell, and I got my bachelor's degree here at KU. I graduated in 2021, and I got it in biochemistry. And then after that, I went on to go work in a genetics lab at the Stowers Institute for Medical Research in KC. And then I joined the graduate school there, which I'm currently in, and I'm in a lab that studies transcription and gene expression.
Hi, I'm Valery Magner. I got my undergraduate BS in biology from Southeast Missouri State. I'm currently getting my master's degree here at KU, and I work at MilliporeSigma. We're a life science company. Prior to doing that, so right out of college, I actually was a veterinary technician, and then I got into microbiology at MilliporeSigma.
And Valerie, what's your graduate degree you're working on right now?
My graduate degree is pharmacology and toxicology.
Thank you. So maybe we can just start with a general question about your career path. So can each of you describe your current position and job responsibilities in simple terms, as if to someone who does not have a science background?
I'll go first because I still have the mic. So basically, I'm a quality control scientist for a company that makes dry powder media that we sell to other life science companies. So this media basically goes into pharmaceutical research. We do not make ingestible products, so these aren't exactly pharmaceutical materials, but we make the things that culture the cells that make the pharmaceuticals. So a typical day for me is prepping samples. Our production gives us packets of the media that they make that we test before it goes out the door to make sure it's acceptable and follows our specifications. So I prep the media, run whatever test is required, whether it's a bioburden filtering test or endotoxin test, anything like that. We have a couple different areas that we do testing on depending on what the material is, so I won't get into all of that. But then at the end of it is a lot of paperwork, but it's a good balance of a desk job and a laboratory job. So I spend at least half of my day in the laboratory, but then the other half doing the analytical paperwork side of things. So it's kind of a rundown.
Yeah, so my position right now is I'm a grad student and I'm in my second year, so I'm still in the portion of that where I'm developing my project. So honestly, a lot of my day-to-day responsibilities just kind of revolve around that. I guess more specifically, my project is a combination of both computational and wet lab work, and right now I'm more focused on the computational side. So most of the day is just spent coding and whatnot. But when I worked as a technician in the lab previously, I was helping another graduate student with their projects. So I would do a lot of like wet lab stuff, a lot of PCR cloning, just whatever they needed help with.
So my typical day, I don't really have a typical day. I help manage and run right now in the spring semester, the virology labs, intro to microbiology, and bacterial infectious disease. During the fall, it's immunology, intro to micro, and genetics, bacterial genetics upstairs. So we supply everything that the students need, whether that be loops or media. We make most of the media in-house. So most of my day is making all the pretty colorful media that students use. But of course, sometimes things happen and it doesn't turn out right. So you're having to remake it or pivot on a dime. Thank goodness I have student workers that assist me in that process. But yeah.
Yeah, so my position, I kind of said very broadly, I'm a scientist, but what does that really mean at Merck Animal Health? I'm in the research and development department, and we work on making vaccines for all kinds of animal species. At DeSoto, which is where we're based out of, we have swine and ruminants. That's kind of how we're divided up into for the research and development sector, and I am under the ruminant sector. So my day is very variable. I mean, no one day is the same. For instance, today I threw vaccines in the freeze dryer. I made them, put them in the freeze dryer, and I'll check on them later today. But every single day is different. There's a lot of computer work, but there's also a lot of lab work. We're doing all kinds of testings. We basically get ideas or products from academic labs or other ingenuity, people that think it up, and then they kind of sell the rights to us. And then we take that product and we take it all the way to licensure. So that means in animal health versus human health, you at least have a little bit of your foot in every pool. So you become a little bit more of a generalist, which is something that I can say is really, really fun because you get to do all kinds of stuff. Tomorrow I'll be doing qPCR and samples just to see if stuff looks consistent with what I'm looking for, looking at quantitative load of what my antigen is and so on and so forth. So it's a really, really fun job.
Your jobs all sound really cool, so that's really exciting. Can you describe your career journey and any pivotal moments that shaped your path and the direction that you're in now?
Yeah, so I actually graduated, so like I mentioned, from KU in 2019. I was working on West Campus, actually, at the high throughput screening lab, and I thought I was going to stay there, actually. I was like, I'm set, I'm good. I have made a profile on LinkedIn, and I actually was reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn who said, hey, we have this contract position available at Merck. Do you want to apply? I said, oh, of course, yeah, I'll try it out. I had no previous animal health experience. In fact, my long-term goals were to work in public health. So it kind of worked out eventually. But that was kind of my trajectory. So just taking a chance on something new when that recruiter reached out was how I ended up where I am today. So.
So I don't think I mentioned earlier, I graduated in 2015. I was a non-traditional student and went back to college late in life. So when I graduated, I worked at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, testing all the water for the state of Kansas, aside from the city of Lawrence, because the city of Lawrence does it themselves. So checking for coliforms, also volatile organic compounds. Loved that job, so highly recommend looking at KDHE as a place of employment. And then I worked in food as a quality manager and as a microbiologist for a long time, making sure that food was safe for human consumption. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And as a microbiologist, I felt it was my duty to get in there and help as much as possible. So I went and worked at a hospital as an infection preventionist, helping doctors and nurses take care of COVID patients. And I don't think I have to go into detail about how horrible that was. So once, I don't want to say the pandemic was over, but once it was better, I actually, the job I have here at KU, it's a dream job for me. So I was waiting for this job to open up for a really long time. It did. I applied, and here I am. So I have gotten to have lots of really awesome jobs, and I've loved every single one. So
I think for me, because I'm still pretty young in my career, the big moment for me is when I first graduated and I was applying to jobs. I actually had two potential offers. One was in industry in Kansas City at I think it was KCAS, and then the other one was at this lab at the Stowers Institute under Sarah Zanders. And so for me, I think just kind of making that choice between, okay, do I want to go into industry or do I want to stay in academia? Because in the back of my mind, I knew I always wanted to stay in academia, so I didn't take the bigger paycheck, but I would say I'm much happier because of it.
So I did not take a straight path to my current job. Like I said, I did a few years as a veterinary technician. That was just kind of a personal passion, and then I kind of stuck with it for a few years. But when I decided I wanted to try something new, I actually got into phase 1 clinical research for a brief moment. Which was a great job, but it wasn't really for me. I just didn't feel any type of way about it, but I knew it was close to what I wanted to do. So then I applied to my current job at MilliporeSigma. I actually applied once. It got through the first round of interviews, and they didn't accept me, but I was interested enough in the job that I was like, I really think I want to work there. So I applied again, and then I got accepted, and I've been there for 3 years, so persevere, I guess. So that was, I guess, my pivotal moment. Like, this sounds like what I want, so I'm gonna get what I want. So,
Valery, can you tell us what you mean by phase 1 clinical trials? I don't know what that is. So.
Oh yeah, phase 1 clinical research. So you typically have your preclinical research, which is like animal testing, things like that. Phase 1 is that first research study that they take a new drug or what it might be and set up a patient study is kind of the short of it. It varies what you're testing, but it could be anything from cigarettes to Advil.
Wow. Cool. Thank you for clarifying. Mm-hmm. Our next question is from a student. So they're wondering, how did you discover opportunities and careers beyond the field of medicine and biology? So beyond going to medical school or physician assistant school, things along those lines.
I guess mainly a lot of networking. Like, really, you kind of know these jobs are out there, but you don't really know anything about them. So you just kind of find the people, find someone who knows someone who knows someone, and then you just kind of get those answers to those questions you don't even know you have, I guess, is kind of a roundabout way of answering that. But yeah, I feel like I just kind of stumbled upon it and talked to multiple people before I got the idea of what kind of job I wanted in the real world.
I think for me, also networking, but then also if you're applying online and stuff through, I don't know, Glassdoor, Indeed, any of those, it's kind of a numbers game. And I say that in the sense that I remember when I was applying to jobs, I was just applying to anything and everything that I thought my degree might fit under. Even more broad stuff, like I remember I applied to Boulevard Brewing Company to do like quality control stuff for them. So the reason I say that though is because I've lived in this area my whole life. I had never heard of Stowers until I applied there, and I just remember seeing the position. I was like, oh, this seems like a reasonably nice place to work. Might as well apply there. Let's see what happens. And now I'm going to grad school there. So just apply to everything.
Yeah, I would second that. Apply to anything that looks interesting to you, but also the networking thing. So before I went to K-State, I did a undergraduate residency in public health at K-State for the summer. And that's what got me to go to K-State for my undergraduate degree. And then just talking, I went to every professor I could and talked to them and said, well, where should I look? I'm wanting to do water and soil microbiology. Where do you know of where I can apply? So yeah, networking is a big thing. And don't be afraid to talk to your professors. I know it seems scary, but they like talking about their research and stuff. So go talk to them and say, I really like what you're doing with Vibrio cholera. Where can I do something like that? And they'll be able to direct you in a direction.
Yeah, these have all been really good answers, and so I won't necessarily repeat them, but there are a couple resources here at KU that really helped me. There is actually a couple courses, so one taught by Dr. Egan that just talks about biotech careers, which is where I heard about more animal health careers, and that's kind of started my interest. But like I said, I didn't really hear about Merck until I was reached out on LinkedIn, so I'd also recommend bolstering your LinkedIn profile, making sure that you have it as open to work, and making sure it's up to date with all of your skills and interests. Besides that, I also did an independent study. I worked in a lab here, Dr. Hancock's lab actually, and it was just fantastic work. It gave me a lot of my bacteriology experience, which was then my role as a microbiologist when I first entered Merck Animal Health. So,
Thank you all. Those were great responses. I appreciate it. Can you all describe the most rewarding aspects of your work? And on the flip side of that, what challenges do you face?
yeah, sure. Rewarding aspects of my work is that inadvertently, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something that was very versatile, that I'm doing something different every day, that I'm very independent in what I'm doing. I get to present my research, present my data, make findings, and say, hey, I think this is the direction we should go with this. And having a boss that really supports you and says, yes, I mean, that makes total sense. Let's do it together. Just having good support. On the flip side, looking at challenges and my specific role, I'm just on a very tiny team. It's just me and my boss. And I have one contractor position that we're hiring on Monday. She starts on Monday, which I'm really excited to get help in the lab again. But that can be a little bit challenging, but I take it in good stride, and we enjoy what we do. And Merck also does a great job at helping us with work-life balance, so it doesn't get to be too overwhelming. So.
Rewards. So I get to help facilitate teaching of future scientists, future nurses, future PAs, dentists, etc., which I think is really cool and rewarding. Challenges, honestly, working with vendors. So something that you need right now that's not available for 5 months, that kind of sets you back a little bit, and then having to pivot a lot on a dime because something didn't work. So every day is a challenge, but we're strong and we get through it. So
I think, I could give an answer about like how our research is super rewarding because we're in academia and you're applying it to the broad, scope of humanity. But I think like on a more day-to-day basis, what I find that happens is because I'm in grad school and I'm working on my own individual project, there have been multiple times where there is something that, say, should work on paper. You've gone through, everything in your checklist trying to troubleshoot it, and you still can't get it to work. So that is extremely frustrating. But on the other side of it, you will eventually get it to work if you just keep going at it. And so once you do have, the other day, I was trying to get these graphs where I was looking for like a very specific pattern of line. And so I got that pattern. I've been trying to get this for, 2 or 3 months. And so once I did get that, it felt awesome. So that's what I would say.
Okay. I would second working with vendors. I don't know why that's everyone's problem, but some days I feel like I'm just firing off emails like, where's my stuff? Where's my tracking number? So that is a real big challenge. But aside from that, having corporate clients is also a real big challenge. There's just so many hands in the pot and everybody needs something now and it's going through 500 different channels. So just the communication is a challenge, but after a while you just kind of get into it. But on the same frame of that, actually, a rewarding aspect is hearing from your clients that your products are good and they're successful and they did what they needed them to do. And then you kind of imagine the very end where you're helping make products that are helping people and making a real difference. So that is kind of rewarding to not see it firsthand, but know that you helped it get there.
Cool. Thank you all. I'm going to switch to thinking about education and training as well. So what educational background did you have before entering your profession? And are there additional qualifications necessary for your role or that you would recommend to students?
Other than my bachelor's degree and my veterinary technician experience, I really didn't have much in the frame of science. My time as a QC analyst for Clinical One trials was basically just kind of a research observer position. So it wasn't lab work, it wasn't hands-on, and that's kind of what I was missing from the job. But it gave me the ideas and the structure I was looking for to integrate into kind of a lab job that I wanted that hands-on frame of work. So really, I kind of hit the ground running with my current job, just getting immersed in on-the-job training and knowledge of testing and things like that. But I wouldn't have said I felt set back at all. It was just like, felt like a sponge, had to soak it all up. So.
I would say from the academic side of things, there are kind of two routes of this. Like, if there is, say, a type of research you want to do or a technique you want to use, then by all means try and go find a lab that does that technique, reach out to the professor, join them, even just to, see what they do. I was not that, but I knew I wanted to be in research, so I just tried to work in as many research labs as I could here. So I spent 2 summers working out at the field station doing ecology work. I'm a biochemist by training, I guess. And then I also worked in Scott Hefty's lab until COVID hit. So if you are interested in staying in academia and you want to go into higher education, I would say just try and join a lab in your undergrad, because as somebody who also recently went through the grad school application process, for better or for worse, people are beefing their resumes with lab work as an undergrad, and so just to stay on par with them, that's something you kind of need to be doing now. So
yeah, I second that as well. So my educational background, the reason I was able to work in healthcare during the pandemic is my previous background to my microbiology degree is nursing. So I had a certified nurse's aide. I worked in that for a while in my early 20s. And so with that, along with my microbiology degree, I was able to work in healthcare. I did not work as a microbiologist in a lab for healthcare because that requires extra licenses and certifications that I don't have. But I would definitely say if you want to do research or you think you want to do research, try it as an undergrad in a lab first. Because my personal experience with that is I thought I wanted to do research in a lab, and no, I really am not that person. Even though I fought really hard, I fought for a year to get my undergraduate research role at K-State. I did win an award for that, and that was awesome, but I wouldn't do it again. For those that love research, just make sure that you're going to something that you really want to do. So you have to be really passionate about it and love what you're doing.
And going back to the industry perspective, educational background, I was kind of just a fresh sponge. I think that's a really good way of putting it. And especially in those contractor positions with Merck or whatever company there is. I know there's also SIVA around here, to name a few off the top of my head. Sometimes they'll get contract positions, and those are a lot easier to step into straight out of college, whereas the R1, R2 positions, the actual permanent positions sometimes require a little bit more experience and or education. The R2 position, for the most part, requires a master's, and the R1 usually requires a bachelor with like 5 years of experience, so to speak. So those are the kinds of things they look for, but as everybody on the panel has so far said, it's really good to have the undergraduate research experience to kind of set you apart when you are trying to compete for those entry-level positions.
This is another question from a student, but are there benefits and drawbacks of like a graduate degree or postgraduate degree? And how does it impact what jobs are available to someone in your areas?
So the benefit from my standpoint, I always wanted to do my master's in public health, so it was just kind of sweet. Future destination, I don't know, final destination, that's not the right one. That's the bad thing. But regardless, I was just really excited to see that Merck supported continuing education, and they offered free master's degrees. So I didn't have to spend out-of-pocket money in order to get my master's, and by doing so, I was able to, like I said, get that promotion. Not a lot of people can just jump from the R1 to the R2 without the upper education, so that's the benefit to getting master's degrees. But if you can wait until somebody can pay for it, great. You know, that can't always work out, though, so I recognize that.
I don't have a doctorate or a master's degree, but I would say that as a staff member here at KU, my co-worker upstairs, she is currently getting her master's for free because she's a staff member. So I would definitely think about that. If you don't have the means to pay for graduate school, maybe work in academia so that you can get that assistance with that. It might take you longer, but it's free. So I would also preface it by saying if you are thinking of graduate school, make sure that there's a really good reason you're doing it, not just, oh, that's what everybody's doing. Because I can tell you from personal experience, I've had some really awesome jobs that didn't require those things. So it really depends on what you're wanting to do.
I guess I can only really talk about being in graduate school. I would say some of the biggest challenges, or could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, let me find it again. Sorry. Benefits and drawbacks of having a postgraduate degree, and how does it impact what jobs are available to someone? So for you, Sam, I wonder, like at Stowers, how does having like a master's or PhD maybe help someone advance, or not?
I'm not going to be able to give a good answer, so I will pass.
No worries.
All right. So since I'm also in the middle of my degree, I won't really say what having one my experience with, because I don't currently have a graduate degree, I guess. But my company also provides tuition reimbursement. So my degree is also being paid for by someone other than me. So that was definitely a driving factor in getting it, but really, I kind of wanted to progress my education to bring more to my company, which was a very easy sell for them to get on board with. So because they're very big into development, so actually our company really promotes new ideas and new ways to do things. And I thought this was a good opportunity to continue my education and teach myself some new things that I can bring to the company. So in my department, quality control, most people just have their bachelor's and lots of outside experience, but our research and development team, they all have graduate degrees. And so I think for them it was beneficial for framing the research that they're conducting. They're very hands-on in setting up their own studies and things like that. So I don't feel like I could have gone to their team and been much of an asset because I don't kind of have that frame of reference that I'm now getting with my graduate degree. So I am starting to see the bridge between the benefit of that and that frame of work. So if you just kind of have that idea going into whatever job you might be looking for, you can see if that would benefit you or not, I guess is my answer.
For those of you in grad school or thinking about grad school, do you have advice on selecting the right program or school for your career, or is it just kind of what offers it? What advice do you have, if any?
I don't know if I have great advice other than what everybody probably already knows is just get online and do a lot of research. This might sound like the networking answer as well, but I did not get my undergraduate at KU, but I know a lot of people who have been here and got their undergraduate and graduate degrees here, and I've never heard a bad thing. So that was a pretty easy direction for me to look into, and that's why I ended up here. So.
For me, I applied to a lot of grad schools, and I got offers from two, one of them being Stowers, so I was an in-house hire. So I can't really say to picking a program. I would say if for picking a lab, though, because I think that is super important, and I think this also applies to picking a program. But I would say if you can, speak to the actual grad students who are in the program or the lab itself, and speak to them if you can in an environment that's not like an official setting, so they can actually tell you, how the program works, what are things they like, what are things they don't like, what are good things they see, what are bad things they see, and they don't kind of have that, third party person looking over their shoulder to keep them in check. So.
And then I already knew what I wanted to do in my master's in public health, and so I was just kind of looking at which universities to apply for, and because I'm in animal health, the University of Missouri, which is, I don't know if I mentioned that's where I got my master's. It's out of shame, but but yeah, I did get my master's in public health through the University of Missouri because they had an emphasis in veterinary public health, which just kind of lined up with what I was working with at the time. So.
I would also say if you can find a program where you are not paying for it yourself, take that option as well. So.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well, that for a lot of graduate programs, it seems like, and you all can speak to this potentially too, if you're working as a graduate research assistant or a GTA, a lot of times there's tuition remission for doing that. So you, in theory, should not have to pay for graduate school. So thank you, Sam, for bringing that up. I was going to ask another question about education and training. What helped you stay motivated while you were a student to complete your degree? As I imagine many of our students right now are trudging towards the end of the spring semester, which feels like a harder semester potentially than the fall.
So my undergraduate it was just my community that helped me get through that. It was just, it was rough, but it was good, and it was communal, and it was fun to kind of finish with everybody. With my master's degree, it was just seeing the finish line in sight because I was by myself. And it kind of sucked because when you are in the real, quote unquote, real world, after you're done with your job, everybody else, all your other friends, are just doing whatever they want. And so I'm like, well, I got to go do homework. So it's a little different, but you just have to have the perseverance and build good habits to kind of just get into it straight out of work. Otherwise, you kind of fall behind a little bit. It helped that I was really passionate about public health and it was something I wanted to do. But even so, it still kind of sucks to do papers or presentations, no matter what, especially if you've just worked an 8-hour workday. So.
Endeavor to persevere. So I went back to college late in life. So I had already been in the real world and hated it. And I do have 2 associate's degrees as well. And so I was working what I call a piddly job or something that was not satisfying or fulfilling. And so I decided to go back to school. That motivated me to my path. The first time I looked through a microscope, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to look at this forever. And this is awesome. This is an unseen world that you can't see without the aid of a microscope. I want to know more. And so as an undergrad, an older undergrad, I didn't go out and party or anything like that. I was 10 years older than everyone else. So I was at the library and studying and working on my homework. And I also did undergraduate research. I also worked for the microbiology department. And so I didn't really have time to do anything else, but I'm extremely passionate about microorganisms. And so my whole life has been pretty much dedicated to that. And I think that's it right there, is finding what you're passionate about. Because if you're passionate about it, it's not work. So.
I think for me, for completing my undergrad, a big part of it was, this is going to sound cliche, but kind of realizing it's, you're in college for this one chance, try and make the most of it. And so the reason I say that is I was also here at KU, and it is super easy to be going out on, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night or whatever. But just balancing that fact of, okay, you can be studying, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, reward yourself on the weekends, allow yourself to have some fun, but don't overextend with that. And I think one thing that really helped me with that is just having a good group of friends who were also studying on Wednesday nights. Something like that. So I didn't feel like, oh, they're out doing, they're at the Hawk or whatever, I'm missing out on this. They're also in the library, so.
Okay, I wish I had really good philosophical answers for this, but I'm just gonna be really honest. To get through my undergraduate was mostly anxiety. I graduated. I don't know why I felt the need to graduate early, so I got my bachelor's in 3.5 years for no reason. I just rushed through it. But I probably wouldn't have made that accomplishment if it weren't for a lot of study groups. So I just made friends, joined their study groups. They didn't know me, they didn't like me. I joined their study group anyway. I just got ideas from other people, but it worked. So getting through my master's right now, I think my biggest motivation is when people ask me about my degree, how's school, and I'm really tired of answering that. So I'm really pushing to get through it so people will stop asking about it. And then I get a pay raise at the end. So sorry, those are not great answers, but those are my honest answers.
I like keeping it.
Anxiety.
That's good. What was a memorable experience that impacted you, either in school or in your career? And do you have an example of an experience and what you learned from that? That's under personal insights and advice on the second page, if you are looking at your questions.
Yeah, I might have to think about this one.
That's okay. You can pass it on and you can come back.
I think one for me is going out and speaking to other people about the research I do, and not even necessarily other biologists, because I think once you get into grad school or even at a place like Stowers and you're working there, you get sucked into this bubble where you're constantly talking to people about the same things, biology all the time. They hear about it all the time, so they're like, oh yeah, cool. Then you go talk to somebody else outside of that, and their eyes light up. They get really fixated on it, and then that just kind of, at least in my head, makes me think like, oh yeah, okay, the stuff I am doing is actually really cool. Other people do think it's really cool. So I would say those experiences are very memorable for me.
So I mentioned earlier that I did undergraduate research. I worked with fungi and how they grow on bur oak trees. So I won an award for that through K-State, and I got to present it at the Ecological Genomics Symposium in Kansas City in 2014 in front of 100 scientists from around the United States, including Harvard, Stanford, all those things. So let me tell you how nervous I was to get up there and talk, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just this little Kansas person. And I was the only undergraduate to present research on fungi, which just made that even more memorable for me, because all these people were just coming up to me and talking to me about it. And so that is one of my most memorable experiences as an undergrad.
So I have one from undergrad and then one from workplace experience. Undergrad, it was while I was working at the high throughput screening lab on the West Campus. I got to present a poster for them, and I was like, whoa, I can't, that's crazy. I can't believe they're letting me do this. Like, they're just letting me go to this thing and present this poster about everything that they're doing. And I felt wholly underqualified, but it was really memorable, and it was really cool to learn from everybody else. And just talking about research, like Sam said, is just really enriching. It's something really cool to see what other people are passionate about. It's really fun to nerd out about things that everybody else likes too. So that was with my undergraduate experience, and then my industry experience. As a result of my master's, I got to do a part of like an internship with a different department. So I got to go out in the field with tech services. Tech services basically follows up once we get product out to the market. They ask the customers, hey, how are you liking this product? Are you having any issues with it? Are your cattle herds, are they doing okay? So I got to go out and kind of see firsthand what our products do for people, and that was just really, really cool. So,
Valerie, did you have a response?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that came to mind isn't really an experience that ties to what I do for work, but it ties to my company. So MilliporeSigma has a group that we do community service through. It's called the Spark program. And a big part of that is we host like curiosity labs. We have a curiosity cube that we take to elementary schools and stuff like that. So again, it's not teaching kids what my job is, but we do other little science experiments. And it's like kind of my favorite part of working for this company is like going to talk to a bunch of third graders about plants. I don't know. But it's just like a break for my work day, but like I get paid to do it. So I don't know, that it gives me pride in my company. So it's nice that I found a company that does something fun and still lets me do the career aspects that I was hoping to accomplish.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to open it up to you all for questions now. Does anyone have an initial question they'd like to ask? Okay, hang on one second, Danny. Gotta run a mic to you.
So I'm looking for jobs right now, and I was wondering, like, how many jobs did you apply to when you're applying for jobs?
Yeah, this is kind of embarrassing. How many science companies are in Kansas City? I probably applied to all of them. I mean, it was like never heartbreaking, but it was just like, oh, I gotta try again. But it was kind of funny. This particular job that I have now, I applied to twice. I was like, they told me no, but here I am again. So there is something to be said about perseverance. Sometimes a no is a no, but yeah, sometimes I think a rejection gave me the idea to look in different avenues, like maybe not this focus, not this particular aspect of biology. So it did get me thinking. I guess that's kind of the best way I took a rejection, was like, all right, let's think about something new, something different. And definitely apply to things that you wouldn't immediately think you'd be a good fit for, because sometimes you might surprise yourself and sometimes you might fit into the job better than you expect.
I can't remember how many jobs I applied to. It was multiple dozens. I think for the rejection side of things, just realizing that for better for worse to them, you know, you're somebody who they met with for 3 weeks, they're looking for this position, there's so many factors that go into it about, you know, do they have somebody else already in mind, like what are they looking for specifically. It's not an attack on you personally, it's just for better for worse the way the game works.
I don't know how many jobs I applied to, a lot. But I've also, in my career, had a couple of different jobs, including this one and a couple others that are dream jobs. And just because you get rejected the first time, maybe it's not no indefinitely forever. Maybe it's not right now. And you have to make peace with that. So, I would say, you know, if there is a job that you're really wanting and you interview for it and you get rejected for it, if it comes back around or it comes back up on your LinkedIn or whatever, apply again. What's the worst they're going to say? You've already heard the worst. So I would just say don't give up on that.
And I don't have anything to add. So.
Those were great answers. Does anybody else have questions? Okay.
I'm also kind of worried about because graduation is like in a month and a half. Like, what if I don't find a job within that time frame? Like, what do you do? It's like, oh crap, it's May, and I still have a job lined up. Did you ever run into that?
So the question,
scenario?
Since we're recording it, the question was, if you don't have a job by the time you graduate, you have advice.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. Again, don't give up. You have plenty of time. I guess depending on your particular situation, like if you need money right now, then whatever comes your way. But maybe there's something that's not necessarily directly into what you're wanting to get to go do, but maybe that that particular job, maybe they have another position that's something close. That way you get your foot in the door. So I would suggest that as an option. I will say always look at academia. There are so many jobs in academia, and they really need good people. So maybe check that out as well.
I guess my answer is a little unconventional. I also didn't have a job when I graduated. I didn't really have a plan, if I'm being honest. I didn't know where I wanted to live was the big issue, because I was in Cape Girardeau for school, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go home. I don't know if I want to move to a different state. So don't follow anyone's timeline but your own. That was the biggest lesson I learned from that, and I still have to keep that in mind to this day. Don't follow anyone's timeline but your own. So that's how I got into the vet tech field. I was like, I have an interest in this. I have a passion for this, and I've got a general, good knowledge of animal health. So I'm going to do this. And it gave me the time to think about what my next step was while I was making money and, supporting myself because couldn't pass that up. But it also gave me just those basic tools that any job is going to require. Working with a team, working with clients or anybody else, structuring your day, time management, all that stuff. So be thankful for those skills too, those softer skills that you have to learn from any job. So don't cut yourself short and think, oh, I don't have my career job. I don't have my dream job yet. Don't follow anyone's timeline but your own.
Cool. Okay, our final question then will just be, is there anything that you have that's a piece of advice or anything else that you want as a current undergraduate student to know about finding a career, something that you didn't have a chance to say that you wanted to?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is ask questions. I know that sounds really cliche and you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but I kind of have to remind myself, even in my job and my career, to ask questions. Sometimes, especially with a corporate job, I really get into just following the rules. And honestly, that's not what science is necessarily about. So asking questions actually progressed me further than just following the rules. And I'm not saying break the rules, but I'm just saying don't be afraid to ask why, because then that better understanding, knowledge is power. So use that to learn new things, teach other people new things, make things easier, discover something new. So just ask questions.
I think for me is I am personally a perfectionist and would get very competitive in, classes, even in grad school stuff. So I would fall into traps of oh my God, all these people around me seem like they always know what they're talking about. There's something I'm missing. So two sides to that. One is realizing no matter how smart you are, there's always going to be somebody smarter. So trying to always be the smartest just isn't feasible. And then on the other side of that, though, is 95% of people also feel like they don't know what they're talking about. They're just not showing it. So, kind of that dichotomy and realizing and coming to terms with yourself makes things a lot easier. So.
I would say try new things. So, because what's it going to hurt if you learn one more thing, right? Get involved also. So, I do personally employ several student workers upstairs, and we employ biochem majors, micro majors, doesn't matter. But these are foundational skills that you're going to take with you to all your other jobs. So it's a good way to hone those skills for yourself and also ask questions like why. So take the time to learn as much as possible about what you're really wanting to do.
Yeah, that was an excellent answer. That's basically mostly what I was going to say is just diversify, especially here at KU. There's so many options available to you. There are so many things available to you. West Campus is a whole different beast that I don't know that many people even look at or inquire into, but they have really good job opportunities over there, even if you're just starting out and trying to figure out what you want to do. Just quite frankly, because I don't know that even after my 4 years in microbiology that I was I know exactly what I want to do. That just wasn't the path. Even after I graduated, I was at the high throughput screening lab, and then the opportunity came up to try something different, and that's exactly what I did. So here at KU, there are just a plethora of options available to you, and that's one thing that I really love about this campus. And there's also there's zany things you could do. Like I did music reviews for KJHK while I was doing my undergraduate, and weirdly enough, that helped me with protocol writing down the line. Like I don't know, something about the flow of words just ended up helping. So take advantage of every opportunity there is. Network while you can. Yeah, there's a whole bunch here on campus to take advantage of that. If you just show up to class and then leave, then you might miss out on something like this event. Yeah. Precisely. So yeah, thank you guys for showing up.
Sorry, I just thought of a couple other things. So here in Douglas County or Lawrence, there's a lot of outside of KU campus clubs and organizations, societies that you can get involved in. I would highly recommend going to the public library. They have so many awesome events on weekends that are not just for kids, that are science related. Also, Science on Tap events at Free State Brewery, highly recommend. At KU Field Station, they have a lot of really awesome things going on weekends, so I also recommend that as well.
I think to kind of add to that too is just taking opportunities when they come. And I know I stayed in academia, but even within academia, I was trained as a biochemist, worked in an ecology lab, have worked in a genetics lab, and now I'm working in a computational and gene transcription lab. So, you can make it work. Just take those, and that was just me taking those opportunities as they came up and being open to trying something else.
I feel like I need to add something because everybody adds something. So, I hope my answer isn't like diverting somebody from, going for their passion, but don't forget about work-life balance. Like, I feel like right when I graduated, I was like, I need to go live on a boat and, spend my time researching kelp. Like, I was gonna go full into it, and then I kind of realized I want to live my life too. I want to have a job that I enjoy, that means something, but I want to live my life too. So then I started to think about what that would look like, because all through undergrad, I was like, I think I need to cure cancer. Like, I need to go for, the best thing I could go for. But then I also had to keep in mind, I want to be generally happy too. So don't forget about work-life balance.
You all had such wonderful responses this evening, so thank you so much. Everybody, let's give them a round of applause. We really appreciate you all taking time to come chat with us, especially since you all have connection to KU in different ways. That's great. So we'll hang out up here for a few more minutes if anybody wants to come say hello and meet folks, but otherwise, thank you all so much for coming. If you haven't checked in, this is just mainly to keep a head count of how many people attended, so please fill that out if you haven't, but have a good night. Cool.
Thank you. I have like shirts already. So.
But if you all have a t-shirt size, I would be happy to give you a t-shirt, and I have to thank you for your chances. Savannah.
for coming. That was so interesting.
No, thank you guys for putting on the event. I was so stoked. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, we've been trying to do more and more stuff like, because it's so hard, you know. It's like, like people are like, what do you do with biology? And we're like, well, there's 1,000 things, but also it's just hard to like know the specifics of each thing, you know. And so just knowing like what's an example of like a day-to-day, you know, thing that we do. So anyway, so it's helpful to us so that we can share it with advisors and students and whatever. So.
It's exactly like Valery was saying. I mean, knowledge is power. So
Yeah,
knowing
yeah.
what's out there really helps you.
Right,
And that's
right.
something that I loved here at KU was getting to take that intro to biotech.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, these are some real world applications. Like once I graduate, what can I actually do?
Right.
That was invaluable. It was amazing. So
Yeah,
I
that's good to know.
was super stoked to be part of any sort of knowledge. that
Good.
helps other
Yay.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
sure.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're hoping to do a lot of this and just try to help students. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get this firsthand experience.
Yeah. I wonder if I had my head in the books too much because I didn't really even know that has this program been around?
What program?
Undergraduate biology or just
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so when you graduated, it was here. It's just like, it doesn't really, like, we sort of oversee the undergraduate experience, but then, of course, the majors are housed, like, in the department, so it's kind of a funny setup, you know? So, anyway, so yeah, we don't necessarily, like, refer to it that much, but we sort of just run anything that has to do with undergraduate stuff. So like Lauren and I started in 2018, and yeah, one of the things we focused on when we started was like, okay, how can we talk more about careers, have more events? So we have a lot more events and things like that than we did back when you graduated. So anyway,
that's amazing. Like I love it.
yeah, I'm so
It's good.
glad.
It's good to see the support for the undergraduates too. Yeah, if it's not academics, then what? So
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's super hard. My husband graduated from the biology program here too, and yeah, he was kind of like he was going to go to med school for a long time, and then didn't get in, and then was kind of just like, wow, like now what do I do? And so anyway, but yeah, he landed at Catalent in Kansas City and did that pharmaceutical. So he worked there for a long time. Anyway,
so he's not there anymore?
no, so he worked there for like 14 years, and then he got a job with one of the clients that they served. So now he's on the client side and still working with Catalent. So he works for BioCris, which is housed in Birmingham,